Today's video cuts really close to home at the moment. I'm going to be discussing what I'm doing right now on how to budget with low or no income. And it can happen to you, so it's good to be prepared. Frank Thomas here from Wealth Generation Strategies, and today I'm going to be talking about the topic of how do you budget with low income or no income. I'm going to be covering 5 points that I think are super duper important on how to be prepared for where you're in a low budget situation, you haven't got a lot of money coming in or no money coming in at all. Let me get started right away here. Right off the bat, I want you to learn to start thinking like an ant. I remember a long time ago, I was listening to motivational speaker Jim Rohn, and he said, you always have to think like an ant. An ant is in the summertime thinking winter. In other words, he knows winter's coming, and he can't harvest during wintertime. And winter could be long and cold. So he's thinking winter all summer long. He's not in the sun, basking in the sun, going, oh, it's such a nice day. He's working hard and he's collecting food for his colony all summer long. So you need to start thinking like an ant. In the years that you're making extra, save, save, save. This is exactly how the ant learns to live all winter long. Any reserve you put away should be rethought of as months of covered minimum expenses. Even if this isn't your long-term savings. This is a hard lesson I'm learning right now. I've had to dig into my long-term savings to keep the wheels on the wagon right now. So I've had to sit down and reconsider, okay, what is my monthly expenses? What's my minimum budget? And how long can I make that money last? It's a really simple equation. For example, if your monthly expenses are $5,000 and you've got $50,000 put away, you have 10 months living expenses. Really simple math. When you start to institute this way of thinking, and start thinking like an ant, you'll be shocked at how quickly you can save as much as you can save. You need to go through your budget. I know nobody likes making a budget, but you need to know what stuff has to get paid. For example, there is bills that just got to get paid. It could be your mortgage or your rent, your minimum payments on debt, basic groceries, day-to-day needs. You need to know what all these bills are and know what they realistically are. Don't think, oh, I only need $500 for groceries, but in truth, you can't survive on less than $700 a month for groceries because you have to buy milk, eggs, bread. Get rid of all the expenses from your groceries that are not important. Don't go buy expensive groceries when you can't afford to buy them. Get what you need and stick to that. Start recording what your must-get-paid bills really are. That way you can build your minimum budget. And hey, don't forget, if you're enjoying this video, give it a like and consider subscribing. And click the notification bell if you want to see more content as I publish it here on YouTube. Remove any expenses that are not essential. Cut out any subscriptions you can live without temporarily. Consider selling a car that's on a lease. Leases are very expensive because even though they break it down $100 a week, or I've seen leases that are like $2,000 a month. It's ludicrous. Leases are great to get you into a vehicle if you need one. But if you don't need that vehicle, get rid of that car. Unfortunately, if you're on a lease, you're responsible to sell that car because if you give it back, you're going to pay a big penalty on it. So be ready to sell the car, so make sure it's nice and shiny and clean. Also, reduce subscriptions that are essential, like internet, for example. So when I say reduce, let's say you don't need the highest internet plan and that's costing you $130 or $140 a month. I was in that situation way before I got into the situation I'm in right now, and I was sick and tired of paying so much. I'd rather save that money. So what I did was I started hunting around, and I found a great second-tier vendor who provides me internet at less than half what I paid for the more expensive. Hey, if you can shave $70 or $80 off your internet expenses, you'd be shocked if you start digging and going through all your subscriptions and expenses. This includes looking at insurance. Can you pause some insurance? In other words, can you have a vacation? If you have term, you can't. You have to either have life insurance or not have life insurance. But let's say you have a universal life or a whole life policy. Sometimes you can pause that monthly fee for a period of time if you have some equity built up in that plan. Also, consider reducing or removing any or pausing any subscriptions that can be paused. There's things that I enjoy, and you know something? They're not essential, but it's time to get rid of them. So pause any monthly payments that can be paused is what I'm trying to say. As a last resort, if you have a mortgage, most banks will let you skip a monthly payment once a year. This may give you a little bit of breathing room when you need it most. So save it as a last resort. Talk to your bank and don't go to them and say, oh, I just haven't got enough money. Say to them, you know, I have some expenses this month and I'm wondering if it's okay if I just pause my mortgage for this month. 9 times out of 10, you approach it right, they'll give you a 1 month breather. Realize though that you're going to be increasing the length of your payments going down the road, and you still pay the interest on this money that you're not paying for. So just remember that point. This is a big one. Sell what isn't essential. Anything you have can be repurchased in the future if it's something you want to have and enjoy in the future. But consider selling first things that are not being used. If you have something like I have a snowblower that I'm currently putting up to sell. I don't use it. I made sure it's running good, it's in good condition, and I know I can get a few bucks for it, so I'm going to sell it. But also consider selling things you're just not using at all anymore. It's time to really start looking at what you have and decide, you know, do I really need that? Yes or no? Get rid of it. Hey, even if you fire sale things to get rid of them, a little bit of cash in your pocket might make the difference between making the bills or not making the bills. So consider that. Then also consider selling things you can do without and replace in the future. Consider selling anything that just isn't essential for you to live. Get ready in case you have to sell your home. Now, this only is applicable if you own your own home, but be prepared to sell your home as a last resort. So in other words, you start fixing things up. There's always stuff around the house that just kind of gets left. You know, oh yeah, I'll get that done one day. You know, for example, I have some paint work that needs to be done in the house. That's getting done. I had some trim work that needed to be finished. That is done now. And consider cleaning things up around the inside of the house and the outside. Clean always commands a higher price. When people come into a dirty house or a smelly house or an unkept house, it turns them off, and they're going to think, oh, you know, either they're going to just turn right around and leave, or B, you're not going to get what that home is worth. So just be prepared. Don't think that your home is the beat all of end all. I've seen some really nice homes for sale. You got to remember that's who your competition is. And remember, when you're fixing things up, paint is a miracle worker. Just making sure that the house has a fresh coat of paint, you can work on it, you know, part-time. You know, you and your wife or you and your husband can work on it part-time over the course of a couple months and just put a nice fresh coat of paint and make sure that the colors are neutral. Hey, you might love orange walls, and fill your boots. If that's your home and you're going to be staying there for a long time, fill your boots, as I would say. But when you go to sell, you want neutrals. I hate to say it, but grays, whites are neutral. Allow the colors in the room to light up the room with color. Don't allow the paint to take it over. Also, know what your home is worth and what you're going to get out of it if you do have to sell. Be sure to consider the cost of moving and realtor costs. Wow, you know, you could find yourself in a negative position, and you know something? It's better for you just to be where you're at, unless you just can't make the mortgage payments anymore. Also, too, if you need to, let's say you do have equity. It's amazing. You'd be shocked how much equity might be built up in your home. Don't assume that your house is worth a certain value. Get a realtor to come in and give you a good quote based upon comparable properties in your neighborhood. Know what your home is worth. So important. You might discover, wow, I have 300,000, 400,000 in equity sitting in my home that's just sitting there. You might say, but I've paid my mortgage off. I hate to say it, but your home is going to take you to the poorhouse. I know that sounds kind of crazy, and I love having my mortgage paid off. I'd love to have that. I'll give you my example. When I bought this place, I knew I was buying in a good area that was going to go up in value, and it surely has. But I've been here only 5 years, and my price of my home has almost doubled. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm looking at seeing how hard it's going to be and what I'm going to get out of it if I sell my home. And we have two options at that point in time. We can either A, consider renting for a period of time, and that's it. That's fine. Just because you're renting it doesn't mean you're poor. There's a lot of people who are very rich that rent their home. And secondarily, you can also consider a property that you still purchase, but it's a lot lower to purchase. Let me give you an example. My wife and I have been looking at townhouses. We are looking at apartment condos, that sort of thing. And the price is a lot cheaper because it's not as desirable as, let's say, our home is. We can actually get into a situation where our mortgage drops from being 360,000 down to under 100,000, or possibly nothing. And the final point here, which is a bonus, is do everything you can to increase your salary. Now, if you're in a situation like myself and you're out of work, take free or low-cost courses to improve your knowledge in your area of expertise. You'd be shocked at how much you can learn when you have the time to learn. Give yourself permission to learn. Become worth more to the marketplace. And also start looking where you can get your best return on your investment of learning in your salary for your skill set. One region, the place where you're living, let's say, might not offer as high as wages as another area. Be sure to look at the cost of living. That could be something that it's influencing how much you can earn there. But also consider, hey, that area might be in a situation where they're really looking for somebody with that particular talent that you have. So they're willing to pay more. Sometimes that's where that good work is. There's a lot of things you can do. You have to be a little bit inventive is what I'm saying. You have to consider all your options. Know what your expenses are. That is so critical. Take an accountance of what you have and what it's worth, that you can reasonably sell things for. Don't discount what you already know. Make sure that you make yourself worth more. Brainstorming options that you haven't thought about before. One of the things I'm working on is a website that will accompany this channel on YouTube. And it'll be a website that will let you actually build a budget easily and show you how much you'd have to save and based upon your expenses, to create, let's say, a living slush that you can live for the rest of your life without any financial burden anymore. That's pretty cool. Do all the things that I've mentioned here. And I'll tell you something, this isn't easy, but don't let it grind you down. It's just part of life. It's the way it is. One day you're up, next day you're down. And that's, like I said, that's the way life is. But what do you do when you actually get back on your feet? What is the very first thing you're going to do? You're going to go back to point number 1 and think about your emergency fund. Start chunking away, putting away, and maybe you need some expert advice on this. I have a video that I put up just a week ago that talks about building your emergency fund, and you need to go check it out. It should be on the screen right now. Otherwise, thank you so much for joining me today. And hey, keep your spirits up. If you're in the same situation as me, we'll get through it together. Frank Thomas here. You keep working hard. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.